Hey, everybody.
Happy Thursday,
Yeah.
everybody. I hope you have had a great week so far.
Why are we so happy? Well, we're compensating, aren't we?
We kind of are. So
this is going to put our professionality to the test today.
it really is. You are going to see just how much we know on the fly.
Yeah.
So Katie from Universal Ostrich Farm is supposed to be on with us right now. And literally 10 minutes ago, 14 minutes ago,
2 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago, she was on backstage with us, and then she disappeared. And we're going, where did she go? Oh, she's probably just gone to the washroom, getting a cup of coffee, whatever people do. Maybe grabbing a quick bite, because we know she's been doing interviews all day today. And I know that they were in court earlier today. And so I know she's had a crazy day. And so now it's, 5 minutes to, and we're looking, going, oh, is she coming back? What's going on? Where is she?
Oh,
and
wait,
I just checked my emails and got a very hectic note from Katie stating, Jody, oh my God, I'm sorry. We have a bunch of stuff happening with the lawyer and CFIA right now, capitalized. I need to be present downstairs. So she is currently downstairs at her home, dealing with the lawyers and CFIA right now. So we have no idea what has happened. What is
something's
going on?
transpired. We don't know what it is. We've invited her on the show if and when she gets done. So whatever it is, we may break the news, or we may not see Katie at all. So that's what makes live shows really amazing, everybody, because you never know what you're going to get. So I may have to change the title of this show afterwards. So we are going to do our best. We can walk through Katie's story, and then she comes. We've already done the pre-stuff, and if not, there's so much going on in the world. Everything from flip-flop thingy to the 51st day. We can talk about that. There's lots to talk about, so have no fear. We'll have lots of things we can speak about, and Michael Chichong is arranging stories backstage right now. So let's just start with the ostrich story. You've seen it. She's gone on everything. They were on Shadow. I think they were on Wayne's show like an hour ago. She's been on every single show talking about what's going on there. Yeah.
BC Rising has been absolutely an incredible support for Katie and her family. We actually saw Carrie's story on BC Rising on a Zoom call. And I just said to Chris, oh my gosh, we have to help this lady. We need to help this farm out. We know from talking to local farmers here that last summer, the CFIA were going around and knocking on hobby farms and asking to see their birds, and anybody basically that had an egg stand out front, they were knocking on their doors and saying, we need to test your birds. There's avian flu going around, or whatever virus it was they were claiming to be. And then they were testing the birds with a PCR test and then culling all the birds.
Right. So we got that firsthand from a friend of ours who works at a local shop, and farmers come into that shop frequently. And 3 people told them that they'd come in and tested their chickens. And this is in our area, in the where are we?
Northumberland County.
Yeah, Northumberland County area. And so we knew that firsthand that it happened. We put a TikTok out on it, and it went super duper viral.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, BS, that's not happening. We knew firsthand that it is happening, and we knew it was going to happen because we did a show on it not that long ago. The show is titled on Rumble, Breaking News: The Government Lies. So if you want to be basically what happened was somebody was wrongly given an invitation to a health conference, and it was a meeting. It was a government meeting with Tam and Bonnie Henry, and they were basically talking about how they're going to manufacture the bird flu. So we covered that a while ago.
I think it was back in like May or June.
Yeah,
of 2024. Oh, you found it?
Well, yeah, I've got the link for that.
We'll post the link for you so that you can easily find that, where they
Michael will do it. We're busy.
They held this secret Zoom meeting, and I think there was about 16 to 20 government officials on this meeting, and people from public health, and I believe CFIA as well.
Yes.
And they were talking about how they were going to PCR test as many farms as they possibly could until they found was it H5N1 avian flu virus. That not to worry, they would do everything they could to find the virus, and then they would go around and cull all the birds and all the farmers that were in the vicinity. They'd have a legitimate reason then to ask or order the cullings.
Right. And we did that show because we knew then it was super important that this would have to come up soon. So we kept it, we put it on record. We've got the original video. So if anybody hasn't seen it and can't find that original video, let us know. We'll shoot it off to you. We may just put it up on our Brighteon page where it's nice and safe, and then you can see it there. But we knew that this was going to happen, that they were going to go after the birds, and then they started going after the birds in the summer. We called it out. We got called out for doing it because nobody would believe it. And here we are. And here's the ostrich. So BC Rising has been helping them quite a bit. They've got saveourostriches.com is the place to go find everything that you need to know. They've got shareables on there. So they've got Frank and his cull date. So his death date, basically. They've got
which is February 1st.
Lovely Lulu, same thing. And then Q-tip. So February 1st, I believe, is that tomorrow or the day after tomorrow?
No, on the weekend.
31 days in January. Yeah. So
Saturday is the day that these birds, there's 400 ostriches.
Yes.
Of them, a very small percentage, and it was typically the young birds that ended up showing some signs of being ill. They called in the vet, and the veterinary came in, and they started treating the birds with antibiotics. And the birds, some of the birds did die. The younger birds did die, and then the other birds all got better. And right now, they are sitting with a full flock that are completely healthy. None of them are showing any signs of illness or disease or sickness. I think she said when we spoke with her yesterday, was it 28 birds or was it 68 birds actually ended up dying, and now they're all better, they're all healthy, and they're all fine,
and with provable antibodies now, so they all have natural immunity, and there's no reason for them to go. And they got this disease from migrant ducks that came in and started stealing their food, and that's where they figured that came from.
Exactly. So the CFIA got an anonymous tip.
Canadian Food Inspection Agency, just in case.
Got an anonymous tip that their birds were ill. So they showed up and wanted to test the birds. And what they wanted to test was not the live birds that were possibly showing signs of illness and not the live healthy birds. They wanted to test two of the birds that had passed away and had yet to be buried or cremated. I'm not sure what they do when their birds naturally die, but buried or cremated. The CFIA was insistent that they test those birds. Right. Now, those two dead birds had already been dead for 16 hours. So they weren't freshly dead. They had been dead for 16 hours. And if anybody knows anything about the body, when it dies, all the systems break down, your immunity system breaks down, and everything starts to decompose. And who knows what other stuff happens within the body. Well, those are the birds that the CFI decided to test. We do not know what they ran the PCR tests at, what cycles. That information was not shared. Did she say that I don't even think they got the actual report showing what it showed or what the PCR test found or what cycle the PCR test was run at. They asked for it and they did not get it. What they were told or what they were given after that was an order to cull all 400 birds because they had, was it avian flu or H5N1 found on their property or found in these two dead birds. So the entire flock needed to be quarantined and culled by February 1st.
Right. Now, you may be new to the PCR tests. You may be new to understanding how those work. They were very prevalent in 2020. Everybody gained education on those things. They're not being used properly. They're not something to be used for testing whether or not something has a disease. They were meant for replication. Mm-hmm. So one example of what that could do is it could take a sample of DNA, and if that DNA sample was too small at a crime scene, for example, the PCR system, it's not necessarily a test. The PCR system is meant to replicate that DNA and get a big enough sample, so it just repeats it and makes it big enough so they could actually start testing it. So what most people didn't know up until 2020 is we all have coronavirus in us, or whatever virus in us. We have several viruses living in us, but our body takes care of them.
If you've ever had a cold, you have coronavirus living in you.
Exactly, right. So this PCR test, what it does is it looks for that particular disease or virus, and then depending on how many cycles you use, meaning cycles mean how many replications you use, you can just cycle up until it gets a positive test. So it can replicate that virus within the testing system until it looks like you have a positive test, a positive outcome. And that's why we got so many false positives. And the second the government said, we're going to use the PCR test to find this avian flu, mostly in milk and cows and whatnot, we knew, right then and there, they're coming after the food supply. They're going to use false science to come after our food supply. And here we are. And there's the story with the ostriches gets deeper and deeper and deeper as you dig.
Exactly. So what we also found out by talking with Katie is that a few years ago, not only they don't sell the meats or the birds for meat, they actually sell the eggs and that sort of stuff. But what they discovered is due to the age of these birds, some of these birds are 36 years old, 38 years old. These birds come from long ancestral lines. They have many, many antibodies to many, many diseases. There is I don't even know if there's any flocks around that are the same sort of age with that many birds on any ostrich farm. And some of these birds have lineage going all the way back to South Africa. So these birds are not only have become family pets because they've been with this family. Her grandfather was an ostrich farmer. Her parents are ostrich farmers, and now she's an ostrich farmer. So this ostrich farm literally goes through 3 generations. So this isn't a brand new farm. These are birds that have been birthed over and over again on this farm. They are birds from really clean, pure lines of heritage. And they've built up such amazing immunities that the older birds are not dying anymore. In fact, they are saving other birds. And they started noticing that all the young birds, about 5 years ago, they had the avian flu hit, but their birds survived it. Mm-hmm. Just a few of the brand new babies didn't survive, but everybody else survived it. And then they started looking at the egg yolks, and they realized that the ostrich egg yolk had all these antibodies, and they ended up connecting with another company who actually makes, I guess it's pharmaceuticals. They make pharmaceuticals that have cures for certain diseases and illnesses. And what they also discovered a couple of years ago is that their ostrich egg yolk also has the antibody to treat COVID-19.
Right. So these ostriches were a subject of testing. So they're doing alternate science in alternate than the so-called vaccines. These antibodies are a naturally found antibody, and they don't add all the extra junk that's harmful to your body. So they were looking at a positive alternative to the bioweapon, basically, that came out. So so the story starts getting deeper and deeper, a little more malicious as we go along.
Exactly. So not only now have these birds been proven to have the antibody to fight COVID-19, they've also recently been proven to have the antibody to fight the H5N1 avian flu bird disease. So these ostriches are super important to medical science and medical research. And they have now gotten out of typical farming sources, if you go to their old website, it still has like beet and all that they sell, but they haven't actually done that in the last 3 to 5 years because they've gotten more into the science of what their birds actually have. Their birds hold cures for the human race and for other animal populations. And they had a contract with this company. This company was now sold, I think she said, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? The ownership of this company changed hands. And then all of a sudden, the new owners said they didn't want to deal with them anymore. In fact, they were breaking all of their contracts with them. Right. And they couldn't figure out why or what was going on. There was very little information. And then lo and behold, we've got...
I can fill in that gap.
Yes, please.
So I talked to somebody several years ago, and I got to be very careful because these people are well known. And the daughter in this family has a rare disease. And it turned out the science lab that was working on her blood, it turned out her blood had antibodies to leukemia. And if you know anything about the AIDS epidemic, a lot of that was cured through one man's blood, and he never saw a dime from that. They actually changed legislation in the States to make sure that you wouldn't get a payout. It was just, so even if they used your blood, you wouldn't get a payout for that. So they found out that her blood held the antibodies or the cure basically for leukemia, and the same exact thing happened. So they were in contact with the lab, and then all of a sudden the lab just cut communications, and they finally got through to one guy. He's like, I don't know who you're talking to here, but you screwed us over big time. He was freaking out. So it turns out they got it bought up by the American D&D. So what most people don't know is the American military owns most of the labs in North America. So they own labs in Canada, they own labs in the States. So if it's a research facility that's gotten ahead on something, they get bought up by the D&D, and that's it. They cut contact. Now, I can't say that's what happened in this particular case.
The D&D or DOD? Department of Defense?
Department of National Defense. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I can't say for sure this is what happened, but it looks very similar to this story. And that was quite a few years ago, and there's ties with Clinton and all that stuff, but I'm not going to get into that today because it's very deep and convoluted. Well, these people were very scared to talk to me, and they did anyway. So that's most likely what's happened is they got bought up by a defense contractor.
So not only did they lose their contracts now to produce these antibodies to all these diseases that they know of, but they also lost the ability to do further research to see what else their ostrich yolks might actually be able to prevent in the near future. So, and then all of a sudden they get these migration of ducks and mallards and stuff come onto their land. The ducks start eating the same feed of the ostriches. And next thing you know, PCR test has been run on their property on 2 birds, and now the government comes in, literally quarantines the whole farm, and says, sorry, you can't treat these. You're not allowed to treat these birds. So what's really interesting is these birds weren't treated, and yet they got better, which tells you their birds have these magical scientific antibodies that are needed because they're getting better. They didn't get sicker. They didn't die. Just the little babies that don't have an immune system quite built up yet. They were the only ones that suffered. But anyway, that being said, she did reach out. There's a scientist, a research doctor in Japan, who also has the antibodies. He's got a vaccine for the avian flu. It works. And he said, hey, I'll just bring my vaccines down. No problem. We'll vaccinate all your birds and then you're good to go. You'll be fine. It's already been proven. It's been studied. It's proven it works. It's a legitimate vaccine. So they wrote to the CFIA and said, listen, we've got doctor, and I cannot remember the Japanese scientist's name. So my dearest apologies. We've got this scientist from Japan who has the antibodies. He's more than willing to give you the vaccines for free, or he's willing to actually fly here from Japan for free to save our birds, because our birds have life-saving antibodies for the human race and other animals. And the CFIA said, no, thank you.
Nope, shocker. Right. So that's in the general gist, that's where things are at. They won a court case yesterday saying that they could test on their healthy animals. So up until now, CFIA says, no, you're not allowed to test animals. Only our testing counts. Your testing does not count. And they absolutely, they said, if you even try, you'll be arrested and fined $200,000. So they just won a court case that said that they could test their own animals, the healthy animals, and see if they have antibodies. So they won that, but now they're back in. There's some about a court order in CFIA. Again, tonight, she's just texting right now, just saying she's on 2 emergency Zooms just as we started going into the show. She's highly apologetic.
With her lawyers and with the CFIA. So if she's off in time, she will come in and give us a live, immediately update, up to the moment update.
Right.
But yes, so the CFIA said, no, you can't test. I don't care that you got this court order saying you can test and that you can send it to your own independent lab. We've already tested and so they were being hauled back into court again today. Again, they were given another order. We don't know what happened in court today because we haven't talked to her, because she was going to come on the show and tell us now. And you have to remember, in BC, they're 3 hours behind us. So our 9 o'clock show is her 6 o'clock timing. And I'm assuming that once they got out of court, they had interview after interview, because we know that she was on Wayne Peter's show just before ours.
Right.
So we still don't know what happened and what they're saying, but this is where we're at.
Right. So you can virtually go to any podcast and show, independent show anytime right now, and you'll see that story everywhere. So you can go to saveourostriches.com. You can see other interviews. You can see how the PCR test actually works. They've got a little thing there. And then you can make a donation, and you've got the GoFundMe option, or if you're gun shy from GoFundMe from the convoy, Save Our Ostriches at gmail.com. You can do an e-transfer, but we highly encourage you to use the GoFundMe, because we need other people to see that other people are donating, to encourage more people to donate. So we highly, you can see how much money has actually been donated at that. So it's all transparent. So I would highly encourage the GoFundMe, just to help out and to encourage others to give as well. And then finally, February 1st is coming up really quickly. So they've got a convoy to the farm. So they're leaving from Kelowna and Vernon. You can pick up anywhere you want, and they're eventually going to get to Edgewood, BC, which is about an hour out of Vernon, hour east, I think, of Vernon. And so there's leaving times from Kelowna and Vernon, and their destination is about 9:30 in the morning, it looks like. And I think people are going to camp out. They're going to make sure that this cull doesn't happen. I think they're going to just stand in defiance. So if you're looking for something to do and you really want to stand up, it's amazing to me that with all the stuff that's gone on, people seem to be rallying around ostriches.
I know, but these ostriches are more than just an ostrich that you would see at the zoo. They literally have life-saving antibodies in them. Oh, and the other thing that she let us know yesterday is that not only does the CFIA have an order for them to cull all their birds as of February 1st, whether they're healthy, sick, or not, but also the CFIA wants them to, or in the order says that Katie and her family, must euthanize, murder all of these birds themselves.
Yeah.
And then there are very specific specifications on how they're to get rid of the birds in the most humane way possible, is what the order says. They have to humanely cull 400 birds on February 1st, and then they have to bury them. But there was very specific specifications on how they were allowed to bury them in graves. They're not allowed to burn them. They must bury them in graves. The graves have to be 9 feet down, they're only allowed so much poundage, and I can't remember what the poundage
I think it was
was.
400 pounds.
400 pounds
Right.
per grave. Well, these birds weigh, I think she said 200 plus pounds each, these birds, the adult ones.
Right.
So she's only allowed 400 pounds per bird or per grave. The graves must be
60 feet apart.
60 feet apart, 9 feet down, 60 feet apart. And nowhere in the order does it talk about water sources or worried about the wildlife that lives near them. And what she said to us is there is all kinds of natural springs all through their property. So you're going to have 400 200-pound ostriches buried 9 feet in the ground, 60 feet apart, rotting in the ground. You don't think soil contamination is going to happen or E. coli is going to get into the natural spring water sources? And the CFIA said, not our problem. You need to still do this as per our specifications. And then Katie asked them, well, what about the mallards that are still on our property that actually have the H5N1 who infected our birds? Are we expected to cull all them too? And the CFIA said, of course not. Those birds are wild. We wouldn't touch those. That would be super inhumane to touch wild birds. Mm-hmm. But it's the wild birds that are spreading the disease. So it's inhumane to kill the wild birds, but it's not inhumane to kill perfectly healthy 400 ostriches that actually carry antibodies to cure SARS-CoV-2 and the H5N1 avian flu.
Right.
So what exactly is the bigger agenda here? Because it's not about safety. It's not about health. It's about killing clearly these ancestral lines that are there and have well-developed antibodies to actually save the human race and save other animals from dying of these supposed diseases.
Right. Now, it's an overstep. It's obviously a government overreach, but it's an overstep on their part because you can kill millions and millions of chickens. Chicken farmers will just comply. They'll just cull them and they'll start again, and they won't say anything. And they can decimate our chicken and our food supply. But ostriches are different for a lot of reasons. And so people are going to be a little more protective over ostriches, but they're also high profile. They're a way different thing. And so this was a misstep on their behalf. People are freaking out. Local MPs for that region, they're writing to Mark Holland. Mark Holland, liberal with the bow tie, corrupt as all get up. That man is in charge of all of this right now. And it's reaching deaf ears because, oh, surprise, surprise, Parliament's prorogued right now. So it's not just Bonnie Henry who's provincial. It's not just Theresa Tam. Mark Holland is basically the head of the snake on this one. And of course, he doesn't have to listen because he's not in Parliament right now. So it's not his problem. They only do business on things that they want to do business on. And this is not one of them. So he's hiding behind that bow tie right at the moment. And we don't even know where he is to put pressure on him.
No. And the CFIA.
And you should.
Exactly. And the CFIA is a federal government agency. Mm-hmm. So if you think this is a problem only in BC, please hold on to your hats, because if they are able to set precedents on culling perfectly healthy farm animals that have life-saving antibodies, then you can definitely be assured they are coming after your cows and your pigs and your chickens and your ducks next.
Right.
So this is something that really, truly affects all of our farmers all across Canada. We cannot allow precedent to be set that killing healthy animals is the right thing to do when only one or two of your animals is actually sick. And we know they're doing this with chicken farmers right now. And what they're doing is the same thing, running PCR tests on these chickens that may or may not be sick. Anyone that's showing sign of a possible illness, they're running the PCR test saying, oh, this chicken has the avian flu, therefore your entire chicken herd or your entire chicken flock must be culled. So farmers are losing millions and millions of chickens right now that, again, same as these ostriches, are not sick. But that being said, those farmers are being given a payout. And the payout is more than the farmers would actually make selling these chickens to the grocery stores. So they're more than happy to take the payout. Because what happens is they put all the animals in quarantine, and then after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they order the culling to happen. So for those 2 to 3 weeks, you still have to continue feeding those animals, and you're not allowed to take those animals out of the quarantine. So they're not allowed to go out into the fields where they can graze naturally. You actually have to bring food into the quarantine quarters. And then after that, they're all ordered to be culled anyway.
Right.
So it actually costs the farmers money to try and keep them alive just to have them culled at the end of the day.
Right.
So they're accepting the big payouts by the government to just cull them right away instead of waiting it out.
Right.
But in this case, one, no payout, it could even cover the pricelessness of these birds and the antibodies that they hold for humankind and other animals. But also, no payout has been offered to the ostrich farm, which means, again, if they can set precedent where they no longer have to pay farmers out for the animals they're ordered to cull, this is going to be devastating for our agricultural community. Because once they get it done once and the courts allow it, then that will set legal precedents. And all of you cattle farmers in Alberta, you might want to be listening really hardcore, because the government has an agenda to push chemically induced or grown meat, lab meat. Therefore, your cattle farms are next. And we know they've already hit the pig farmers as well. And we know they've hit the chicken farmers. So this will set legal precedents to hit all farmers and not have to pay you out.
So make us think about it. Over on the BC Rising Save Our Ostriches page, or saveourostriches.com, they have a list of everybody involved. Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food actually is Lawrence McCauley. We said it was Mark Howland, who's the Minister of Health Canada, and that's kind of like a joint venture on this stuff.
Yes.
But I guess Lawrence McCauley would be the head dude on this one. Federal MP there is Mel Arnold for that area. Provincial MLE is Ian Payton. He's a supportive MLA. And the provincial MLA for that area is Steve Morissette. Now, Steve Morissette, before you blast him, has actually been quite supportive and has been writing letters on their behalf. Now, the people actually involved is Paul McKinnon, president of the CFIA, Mary Jane Ireland, who's the head inspector, and then the person who signed the paper, the cull order, is Courtney Forthingham. So all those names are on there. Our emails are on there over at BC Rising, Save Our Ostriches, right there. So BC Rising has been really supportive of what they're doing.
But go to the GoFundMe page so that the Canadian government can actually see that Canadians care about these birds, because the more people they see donating, the hopefully more afraid they will become of the people. When they realize people know about the story and they're watching and they're paying attention and convoying to save this farm, and maybe the power of the people will actually be powerful. We need to get behind them. We need to get behind our farmers. And this is a really great place to start. So go to the GoFundMe, make your donation, add your prayers, add your comments, so that the Canadian government knows we are paying attention. And like I said, if you can convoy to this farm, if you can just make it to the farm and help them out when CFI, because they are not going to comply with these orders on February 1st. So they don't know what's going to happen after February 1st, and they don't cull their birds. If CFIA is going to come in guns a-blazing, or they don't know. They don't know what's going to happen, but they are definitely going to need the support of the people. They're going to need people to help blockade off their farm, so that these officials can't come on and do disastrous or nefarious things to the birds when they're not paying attention. Much like during the COVID days, when they were walking into places of business and locking them up when everybody was gone home. They were changing out locks and locking people out for opening up their business. Who knows? I wouldn't put it past them to do the same sort of thing when this farm is defenseless or sleeping, having their police or their inspectors or the RCMP go in and do the dirty work on their behalf. So we are going to need people to go to this farm and blockade it down and go on security detail to help keep these birds safe and keep this farm running and keep this farm manufacturing the antibodies that will actually help you in the future, your children in the future. This farm is doing good things and they need your help. So please donate to the GoFundMe or show up and be a body or security detail for them. Help them out.
Right. Easiest way to get there, saveourostriches.com, and that'll take you right to the BC Rising page. It gives you everything you need from there. Donations, convoy times. This time the people need to stand up and say no, because our food supply does definitely count on you standing up and not giving them permission to do this. So
exactly. So
all those funds, all
those funds raised are going towards helping fight in the legal case, and also helping to save the birds and helping keep this farm running. Because like I said, right now their lab contracts are MIA. So help this family out however you can. Save these 400 birds. Please. Please, please, please.
Yeah, it sucks.
It does suck.
All right. So now that said, we're out of content. So instead of giving up, we are going to move on.
And if Katie gets off those calls and is able to come back into the show, we will bring her on so she can give you an update ASAP of what she is dealing with right now with the CFIA and her lawyer.
Okay, so Michael Chuchong, welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, what do you got for us?
A couple random videos here. A World Without Apps sounded like an interesting video. I haven't actually watched it, but I believe Jody did.
I came across this video and I thought, oh my gosh, this speaks to we all live by our phones, and we keep saying if you want to break the cycle and if you want to get out of the tyrannical prison that we've been building ourselves, we got to take ourselves out of the banking system. 2, we got to stop being so dependent on our phones. And I happened to see this video, and I think somebody sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God, this is so funny, because it actually shows what would happen, 1, if the world were to go dark, which they are calling for, but 2, how it would affect everybody. So I thought it was a really fun video.
Well, so one of you has at least seen this video.
I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we're not going to this completely blind.
No, it's pretty funny.
Okay.
And so maybe it's the right thing to play after talking about this awful thing that's happening to our farmers at the ostrich farm, at the Universal Ostrich Farm.
Cafeteria is on the 4th floor, and we generally take lunch about 12:30.
This is where I'm sitting?
For now, yeah. With the big move coming up, it's kind of crazy around here. I promise it's only temporary.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Fan är det apparat?
Nej!这不是告诉我。老公啊，WeChat 不工作了。
Come on! Let us we need Airbnb! This is not an Airbnb! Where are we, man? I don't know, man! I don't even know what city we're in! Look out!
World leaders are declaring a global state of emergency until the app situation can be resolved.
Selfies! Get ready! Selfies! Selfies!
Apocalypse is nigh! Apocalypse is nigh!
Okay, who wants to go first?
iTunes! Get you iTunes!
Do you think we should have gone with the puppy paste?
I just ate this whole pizza by myself! Hashtag too delicious to share! Hashtag pizza emoji! Farm Bill 2 right here, y'all! Hashtag instant food! Brian, looking for Brian? Hashtag does anybody want a slice?
Yeah, seems pretty legit.
Right? It sort of points out how ridiculous we are with our apps and how addicted we are, that if we were to lose all our apps today, is this what our world would look like? Because we take all these selfies and put them out there and expect everybody to like or comment on them. You know, hey, I had a pizza, too good to share. Oh, look at me, I'm so cute in my brand new frock. Hey. Is this what we look like if we didn't have apps?
Does it mean like complete breakdown of society, like using the word frock?
Right? Yes. And all of us, how reliant are we on our Google Maps now or our iPhone GPS? You know, and this absolute chaos. And we all know.
Hey, yeah, Summer, you're too young to know what it was like to go on a trip and have your co-pilot do the map for you. That'd cause more divorces than Tinder. I'm going to tell you right there.
Exactly. So, you know, when I watched it, I had a good laugh. And then I thought, hokey doodles, what a comment on where we are in our world. You know, all those three people that were dining together, none of them were conversing with each other. Their heads were all caught in the phone. And when the phone went dead, they didn't know what to do. They didn't even know to look to each other and go, well, okay, I guess we'll talk now. Like that wasn't even an option. Instead, it was freak out city. And the child on the tablet playing his games, the games disappear and he freaks out. And, you know, mom or whoever was sitting there didn't know what to do with him. And the Candy Crush game, did you catch a guy
that was good
with his hammer?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, is that what our world has come to, that we're so dependent on our applications that if everything were to end tomorrow, we would literally become that society? And how long would we remain that society before we figured it out and realized we can survive without them? Because, you know, 40 years ago, we didn't have all that stuff.
Right.
And we survived just fine.
I feel it wouldn't take that long before people remembered books. So
it's all just wine and circus, right? Just straight out of the Roman days, just another distraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was funny to share with y'all.
And you did.
Yeah, I did.
And you did. What else you got?
These are not as bright as that one, but we got Bloomberg.
Not as bright.
That's just a commentary on where society is at today. And you know what? Maybe you better start getting prepared for the blackout that could be coming our way. They've been threatening this communications blackout for a year or two now.
Well, it was lighthearted for a minute there, folks.
I know. Sorry. Yeah. Get your ducks in a row. Just saying.
But anyway, yeah, so next we got the Bloomberg talking about brain computer interfaces.
Ah,
awesome.
Yes, that goes hand in hand with the noosphere that we were just talking about last week.
Yeah.
Is it a video or is it?
Oh, yeah, it is.
For instance, 5 or 6 years ago, Meta acquired Control Labs, a company that makes neurotechnology in the form of a wristband. So just by thinking about something, you would be able to file or shuffle through music on your smart glasses, which we also know that they...
Well, we can't hear that.
So we're basically just
you can't hear it at all? Okay.
No, I can barely
hear it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
I saw that video too, and it was talking, without using the word noosphere, it was talking about your brain being connected to your phone or your watch, and everybody being synchronized and synergized to create electricity and to be all on the same sort of frequency and megahertz all through our thoughts. So I thought, wow, that's the first video we've seen where they're being honest about it. And I believe she was on a news show or a mainstream media doing an interview about it. And they thought it was like fantastic and amazing. And they're just talking about all the amazing things that you can do just by thinking it. By thinking it, you'll call somebody. By thinking it, you can make a deposit to your bank or pay for something just by thinking it. And that's exactly what they're working on with the noosphere. It's another evolution of human being where everything is run off our thoughts and not actually off of our physical bodily motions. But
well, ironically, I can already do all these things just by thinking it. I thought about making dinner today and it happened.
But you physically had to make it happen.
Yes, but it's still.
They're saying you can think it, and robotics, artificial AI will automatically do it for you. So you will no longer have to think and actually do the maneuver yourself or with your body. AI will do it for you. So you can, in your case, you can think about a script and AI will just automatically write it for you.
We're working on a production right now. We're working adjacent with a production where they're going to be doing all the animation via AI. So I think it's going to be the first mainstream movie that's going to come out that's all done with AI. And the time to make this movie is 1/5 of the amount of time it normally takes. So AI is going to change a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Well, and the amount of cost is going to save to do AI.
Yeah.
But that being said, if you're an animator, this is going to be very scary for you because you are going to be out of work. When you can have AI animate an entire 1.5-hour long movie for nothing, and in a matter of a couple of days,
right,
your $100,000 salary is now gone, and your year-long job is now gone.
Right. Now that begs a question, like, where is the creative process in that? Because essentially now people have books written on AI. So you could write a movie script with AI. You could have it animated from that movie script with AI. One person can do it. So is the concept going to be the king now at this point? Because somebody still directs AI, sort of, this is the content I want. So is the content creator the key on this one? Is there anything left for humans, or is it just going to be all content created by AI while we just sit back with our catheter and our IV in the metasphere and we don't even have to move anymore? It's awesome.
Very possible, because think about the project right now that we're working with Spalding Productions, who are currently looking for investors to create media pieces, TV and film pieces.
Also content creators, though.
And records, or record label. We have a record label, and we also have a gaming division. So right now, Chris, would you call it a content creator or director? A gentleman had an idea for a movie, but he's not a writer.
Right.
And he has asked Chris or Spalding Productions to find a writer to write his idea because he's not a writer. So Chris put up his hand and said, oh, well, this is a concept that I've been working on myself and would love to get into. So Chris has begun writing this script, and he's already got Act 1 of the script done.
No spoilers.
I'm not giving any spoilers. However, it has taken Chris probably a month or so to write Act 1. And now we're just waiting for feedback to come back, whether he's on the right track or not on the right track.
Well, yeah, it took me 3 days to write Act 1, but we're waiting for feedback, right?
It took you 3 days to write it, but you also did your storyboard. Is it called a storyboard or your bulletin board with different ideas? Beat boards with different ideas on it for scenes coming up.
Yeah, to work the story out, whatnot, that required a lot of walking around the property, just conceptualizing. But then we finally put it to paper, and it came out pretty quickly once it was there. Yeah.
Right. So that has taken X amount of time. So coming into the new world, are we just going to have people now say into their laptop, hey, I want to write a story about a dog And then all
Wow.
of a sudden it gets written, and this gentleman makes a lot of money off of just saying that, but he didn't really actually write the story because he
So
doesn't have to pay anybody else to write it now.
they do that now. This is we were watching another talk show, and they had written a song. They'd written a song for this for the Ostriches, and it's over on suno.com, and that's exactly what that is. So you can just go to suno.com, SUNO, and you can, it says make any song you can imagine, and it says start with a simple prompt or dive into our pro editing tools, and your next track is just a step away. So you give it a prompt like create a beach house song with your friend just being late again, or a country song, and it will create that song for you. So we're already doing it with songs. We've already seen that on YouTube where guys creating AI songs with a funny twist and whatnot. So
exactly, someone made a song for the Ostrich Farm,
right, and other people are writing stories on AI. They're selling stories on Amazon, and Amazon's actually having to come up with rules on how many stories you can sell, because you're just giving prompts to AI, and ChatGPT creates a novel, and people are selling these novels, and they're creating them in 2 minutes or less, really.
So this is where our art form, our media is now going. So, Chris would be out of a job right now if this gentleman thought to use AI, or ChatGPT does the exact same thing. So all you folks out there that are using ChatGPT because it's so much faster, so much more convenient, you've just taken away a whole bunch of human jobs.
Right. Now, the movie industry is taking the unions to making big moves towards not doing that, and making sure that they're not, at least the writing is not created by AI. But you think, oh, that will never happen. They have had writing competitions before, and they anonymously submitted AI. And I think 5 out of 10 people chose those stories. They could not tell the difference between human written and AI written stories. So life is a changing. You got to be smart in how you content create now. So I think the person right now, the king, is the person who can put all of these elements together into something great at this point. But it won't be long before AI is creating all the content for us, and we're left to do something that it's funny, because if you know anything about human history, every time a tyrannical government comes up, they go after 3 things. Number 1, religion.
Yeah.
Right. Number 2, education, and number 3, they go after the arts. And arts is the first thing they want to kill. And in this new world of technocracy, they're killing the arts. They're killing the human spirit, because people can well, why would I spend a month writing something where I can have a chat GPT write it for me? And there goes that part of your soul that gets sparked every time you want to create something.
Exactly. And we already know they're using AI now in the medical field, because AI is, 98% more accurate on its diagnosis than a human doctor. We know that AI is being used and explored now in surgeries, because AI is, again, far more accurate. And I don't know if it's 100% accurate, or if it's 98 or 99% accurate, more accurate than the human hand at doing surgeries. We know that they now have AI in security systems, and that the police force, at least in New York, are using AI digidogs, and they've got the robot human police officer now. So we know police are eventually going to be phased out. Doctors are eventually going to be phased out. I just got an email today. I always get the real estate magazine, and it was talking about AI taking over the real estate industry, and those who adapt and adopt the AI practices, those are going to be the people who move forward, because more and more people are turning to AI for even their real estate needs. And I know we've been talking about it pretty much since I've been in the real estate industry, 17, 18 years. And we kept saying, oh, that will never happen. People still want the in-person human touch. Well, more and more, and we discovered this over COVID, people were buying houses without ever seeing it, but because AI said to buy it, or they were viewing houses virtually and buying through the virtual assistants. So more and more professions are being phased out by AI. And this now new Neuralink and the Bloomberg brain thing is just another step along the way of losing our humanity.
Yeah, and judges, another one. That's one that we didn't mention, and that has huge ramifications now. I think it was Blink, Malcolm Gladwell's Blink. I've enjoyed every single one of his books, by the way. Good stuff out of it. And Blink was about instincts, and they pitted AI up against real judges, and they took, I think it was like 1,000 cases, and asked AI what was the likelihood that the person convicted here would reoffend if let off. And it turns out AI was right 89% of the time, whereas judges were right 68% of the time. And the difference is the judges look into the eyes and they believe them. They got their kids around them and they believe that this person won't reoffend. But AI judges were far more accurate than human judges were, and the human error was way greater than AI. So that has massive ramifications, because that's a positive testing in favor of AI judges. So can you imagine that you get, it's like Judge Dredd all over again. It's, it's caught, judged, and prosecuted right there on the spot, right?
And with that happening, AI entering our courtrooms, you don't need lawyers anymore either, because you just go in with your AI, tell your story, and AI will go right through every piece of law, every single course case precedent that was set, and will either find in your favor or not find in your favor. It's black and white.
So there's a positive for AI after all. No more lawyers.
More lawyers. No more government being able to tamper unless they're able to rewrite the codes, I guess.
Yeah, which is possible.
But
I think you can do that now. I think there's a place where you can actually plug in your case, and ChatGPT or a legal equivalent will be able to do that for you.
Right. And we know now as well that AI is starting to write its own code. And when things go amok, they don't know, the computer programmers or coders don't know how to fix it, because the code is so much more sophisticated than what humans write, that they're having a hard time keeping up and deciphering what it is AI is writing.
Wow.
So we are literally allowing AI to write humanity out of every profession and career. And we know AI is creating our food as well, and 3D printing and all that sort of jazz. So
what do you got positive there for us, Michael? What do you got there that's positive? Debbie Downer over here is on a kick. So let's pick it up a notch. You got kittens? You got kittens doing like helicopter military maneuvers?
No, we've got a nation run by criminals.
That doesn't sound positive at all. Where's our happy world, folks? All right, go ahead. Fine.
It has become a country run by criminals for criminals. A whistleblower from the Canadian Border Service Agency, or the CBSA, has come forward to explain the apparent infiltration of our government by international criminal organizations. Lou Sabarin tells a rather disturbing story where a CBSA unit busted a group of armed men smuggling illegal immigrants across Quebec's border, only to have the whole thing covered up by the very people who are supposed to protect our border. And it doesn't stop there. In another case, a senior CBSA manager ordered the destruction of hundreds of foreign passports, some belonging to serious criminals, which would have helped law enforcement catch some of the bad guys. And when Sabarin was set to testify about all of this, the notorious Sinaloa cartel threatened his kids right outside his home. Now he's convinced that a CBSA colleague leaked his address to the Mexican cartel. Sabarin's allegations align with concerns raised in a 2019 CBSA threat report, which warned that transnational criminal organizations have compromised several of our government agencies, helping gangs, terrorists, and spies enter the country. Now, Sabarin has been blowing the whistle on this to anyone in government who will listen, including the Prime Minister's office, but surprise, surprise, nothing's been done. It's not just that we've got traitors in Parliament cozying up to hostile nations, we've also got international criminal organizations embedded in our government agencies.
True. Yeah, but we knew that, right?
We did know that.
Mm-hmm.
We've known that for a long time now. We've spoken with people who had their passports seized and not able to get them back. We know our CBSA has not been doing their jobs for a very long time, and their hands are tied. And after we had our interview with JJ Carroll down at the Reawaken tour, he also said that what's happening even in the American borders, they're not following protocols. And in fact, protocols have been rewritten, or notices have been sent out saying, don't follow these protocols. We want you to do this, or for this person, this person, and this person, this is how we want you to proceed going forward. So nothing is running as it should. And we know our government is totally okay with that and on board with that, because the whole point of our government allowing this to happen is so that chaos and confusion and division happens within our society, so that we're not able to unite against our tyrannical government.
Right.
All right.
I think we got one more there. Do we?
We do.
One more?
I see a slide there, and it was from Catherine Austin Fitz was speaking at Hillsdale College a couple of days ago, and she did this incredible 1 hour, actually I think it was like 55 minutes dive with questions. And this is one of the slides, or two of the slides from her talk. Go ahead.
No.
How central banks?
Michael says no.
When I was in Washington, I had a great ally whose name was John Edward Hurley. And John Edward Hurley was giving a lecture at the Smithsonian Museum on Southern culture. And in the middle of the lecture, a young gentleman, approximately 25 years old, popped up in the middle of the audience, interrupted his lecture, and he said, "Why is Southern culture relevant to me?" And John Edward looked sternly down his glasses at him and he said, "Young man, culture is the integration of the divine in everyday life." And
so miscommunication. Hey, you should go watch that, but it's 55 minutes long. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going to be around that long.
No, what I had done was screenshotted a couple of her slides during that, but I also, for Chris and Michael's reference, because we always like to make sure that we back up all of our evidence and where we've pulled things from, I put in the URL to where I got these slides from. And the slides are from the Solari report, but she had them up during her speech. Did you see them?
Yeah, we saw the slides. We'd have to convert them PDF, yada, yada, yada. So I can't do that and talk because, I'm only here to look pretty, not be smart.
That's okay.
So
anyway, the two slides had to do with the central bank digital currency system.
Right.
And how some people are like, oh, that's okay. We're already on central bank digital currency because we pay by credit cards, we pay by ATMs. And in this speech, she breaks out why we're not actually on a CBD system right now. What's the difference? And the difference is because some people are saying, oh, I'm okay with a digital driver's license, or I'm okay with my health card being digitized. I'm okay with that. But the moment you're okay with one thing, what you don't realize or what you don't understand is that one thing is actually connected to 12 other things. And that one thing leads to control of another, of another, of another. And it's a big, giant domino effect of 100% control of everything, of every choice, of everything you make. And if they don't like what you're doing, they just say no, and you're out. And basically, she was referring that circle of digitization is the equivalent to a digital quarantine camp.
Yeah, concentration
or
camp.
Concentration camp.
Yeah, once you're in, you can't get out. Yeah,
exactly. So she was saying, please stop saying yes. Stop being okay with it over here, because once it's okay over here, they've got you and they trap you inside that camp and you cannot get out. And she did a really incredible explanation of what that is and how it leads down there. And then she played the clips that we've played on our show before with the three gentlemen from the EU and from the WEF thing talking about, and she said, I've never seen this. She was trained to be a global banker. She was trained to work with these people and work their systems. And she said, the number one rule is when in Fight Club, don't talk about Fight Club. And that was the number one rule with central bankers. Once you're in the system, you don't talk about the system. You don't talk about what the system will actually do. And she was stunned that the gentleman from the EU actually talked about how they could control what you spent, what you ate, where you went once you enter the digital ID system. So digital ID system is that first foothold into the CBD system. And she was absolutely shocked that this guy said the words out loud. And then not only did he say them out loud, but several other people have said them out loud since then. And she was very, very, if we were able to go to pretty much the end of that, almost the end of that clip, because the very last part are questions, but right before she goes into questions, she actually goes into solutions. And she has solutions for us. And that would be our high note that we could end this on if we could fast forward through that clip to where she's talking about, I think she offered like 3 to 5 solutions going forward to protect yourself, to stay out of the system and protect your future and our future.
Right. Well, we'll play those we'll isolate those and we'll play them on another show.
Yeah.
Just to make sure we can do that well.
I think that'd be really pertinent for our viewers.
Yeah, solutions would be good.
Her solutions were awesome. And again, she goes into stop investing into 401ks if you're in the US, stop investing into RRSPs if you're here in Canada. Start investing in your community relationships, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your community relationships that keep you alive. Those relationships are priceless. On top of the gold and silver, community relationships. Get to know who your farmers are, because that's your relationship for food. Get to know who the mechanics are down the road, because that's your relationship if anything mechanically goes wrong. Get to know who knows how to fix plumbing, because that is a relationship you're going to need later on when you need water. Get to know your electrician, because that's who you're going to need to know when your wires stop working. So these were things that she was saying to end us on kind of a solution-oriented note. Those are things that she was saying you need to start investing your time and money into those people and those relationships.
Yeah, well, that was a long journey from ostriches to global banking. But here we are. We will try to connect with Katie and update you guys on Monday, no matter what kind of show we're doing then.
Yes, we'll definitely keep in contact. Well, Katie's been sending us notes throughout the show.
Yeah.
She sincerely apologizes that she wasn't here, but clearly when the lawyers in CFIA are on the phone or at your door, you need to deal with them. And her parents are in their 70s, so she cannot leave her parents to deal with them. She is the 3rd generation farmer, and it's her legacy or their legacy that's on the line that she's now trying to protect on top of your health.
Right.
So again, go to BC Rising's page, saveourostriches.com.
Saveourostriches.com.
And find out what you can, but go to the Give, Send, Go. Is it Give, Send, Go or GoFundMe?
GoFundMe. But it's all there. It's on the page.
Exactly.
It's the GoFundMe again. It's a better place to donate, just because then you can see how many people have donated and other people are encouraged to donate at that point. So it's a community thing at that point. The other one's hidden. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And if you can't donate, be a body. Go down and help. Volunteer to be security at the farm to keep the CFIA buggers off the farm and keep those ostriches safe from being culled. Because those ostriches are eventually going to save your life and the lives of your children in the future.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that's that show for tonight.
Thanks for sticking it out with us. And again, we will keep you updated as Katie updates us, and she sends her sincerest apologies.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you on Monday.
Have a great weekend.